More Cowboys coverage coming your way from the NFL Combine here in Indianapolis. Tommy Harsh alongside Nick Eatman and Patrick Walker of DallasCowboys.com. Brian Schottenheimer just wrapped up his time at the podium. First time we've spoken to Schotty since his introductory press conference. Patrick, your initial takeaways from what Brian had to say at the podium?
Well, Tommy, my biggest takeaway is just how well balanced the staff is for Schottenheimer. And he was honest in saying that wasn't necessarily the plan going in, but it's how it worked out because he's constantly scouting for new coaching talent, reaching out to his connects. Obviously, he has a long pedigree in the NFL. So you look at the experience, especially with Matt Eberflus, his defensive side of the ball, but look at some of the talented collegiate minds like Connor Riley, who've not yet coached in the NFL. You add those things together, I think it'll work out well for him.
You mentioned the experience aspect of the staff, and when you look at this roster, too, there are experienced players with a lot of decisions coming up, and Brian Schottenheimer touched on that a little bit in terms of Zach Martin and Osa Odighizuwa. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think it was the first and the last question of the Schottenheimer interview, the first one being on Osa Odighizuwa. There's been some talk, some rumblings that maybe that's going to happen. They're going to re-sign him. If that happens, obviously that's a big piece in the middle of their defensive tackle position. So, he couldn't really speak to that so much if it does happen, but he said that would be a great addition. And so, didn't really get too much into the details. Same with Zach Martin, who we know is probably going to retire next week, officially retire, and there's going to be an event the Cowboys are going to hold about that. He said great player, better person, though, as well.
And people is what stands out to me about this Cowboys staff in terms of the people that he's brought in. It seems like everybody speaks very highly of Brian Schottenheimer and vice versa from Schottenheimer to his assistants. And the players seemingly is what they're looking for, good people and good players too. So when we talked to Will McClay earlier at the Senior Bowl and yesterday, that was one of the things that he emphasized too. They're looking at the culture aspect of how these players fit, but from a playing style standpoint, I thought it was interesting that Brian Schottenheimer talked a little bit about what he's looking for, and he talked specifically at the running back position is what he was asked about, something that the Cowboys may be in the market for in the upcoming NFL draft. Contact balance and being able to catch out of the backfield were the two things that stood out to me in terms of what to look for a running back, because when you think of Rico Dowdle, he's more of the slasher type guy who's going to cut between the tackles really well. Great vision. That was another thing that Schottenheimer said he wants to see from his running backs. But Patrick, when you think about that vision compared to what Clayton Adams has shown that he can do on the offensive line and what Connor Riley has done at Kansas State developing offensive linemen, how do you feel like the pieces of that puzzle come together?
I think when you talk about Schottenheimer, what he said, referencing it as a home run, the package of Clayton Adams and Connor Riley, I think that's the perfect description. But then you also toss in a guy like running backs coach Derek Foster, who oversaw peak Austin Eckler in Los Angeles with the Chargers, some of the best years of Alvin Kamara with the New Orleans Saints. And then you go back to Schottenheimer saying that he wants a guy who can also catch out of the backfield as well. Now you look at what Clayton Adams was able to do with the Cardinals, and then you look at Connor Riley, what he was able to do with Deuce Vaughn at Kansas State. These are similar styles and schemes that are all marrying together here in Dallas. So again, I think that it is in fact what Schottenheimer said. I think that's a home run package there.
And you're going to see a lot of really good running backs and offensive linemen here at the NFL Combine over the next couple of days, guys who can catch out of the backfield and block up front. I didn't mean to cut you off if you had some.
Well, first of all, I think can Ashton Jeanty catch the ball? Because when he said I need a running back to catch, I'm like, I wonder if he can catch. I'm sure he can.
I think Ashton Jeanty can do just about everything.
Perfect. Yes.
That's a yes.
But I forgot my favorite thing that he actually said. My favorite thing that Schottenheimer said was that Tyler Guyton has been in the weight room every single day. He's busting his ass in the weight room. I love that. That's exactly where he needs to be. I think these next few months are the most important months of the calendar year for 2025 for Tyler Guyton. Yes, the season will be great, but if he takes care of business right now in February, March, April, maybe even to May, take care of what you need to do to be a second-year NFL player, I think it'll all come into place as a player.
One quick piggyback on that, another thing that I love that Schottenheimer said, best five up front. That's something that Cowboys fans have been begging for years, and it looks like you're going to get it. Does that mean Cooper Beebe moves from center to guard? Sounds like it's definitely a possibility because Schottenheimer has now said it, Stephen Jones said it, Connor Riley said it, Clayton Adams said it. They're looking for your best front five regardless of what the positions are going to be.
And I will add that you mentioned how Schottenheimer was asked about Cooper Beebe moving from center back to guard, where he played a majority of his career at Kansas State. He did say it was possible, but he seemed a little bit hesitant on it. He said it's hard to move a guy out. We can wait for it, but it's hard to move a guy who played as well as he did at center. But at the same time, if you've got, we've talked about this on the draft show, if you've got a third-round center versus a second- or first-round guard, that's a completely different story. You've got to put your best players in the right spot, and that feels like it's what Brian Schottenheimer is doing. Now, another emphasis has been the trenches, and we talked about the offensive line a little bit. Going back to the defensive side of the ball, another thing that I'm sure the Cowboys will have their eyes on here at the Combine is the big defensive tackles. We mentioned Osa Odighizuwa potentially signing an extension with the Cowboys or returning for 2025. Nick, what do you feel like is a piece that would be able to complement what Osa Odighizuwa does?
Well, that's a big part of it. If he does resign, then it doesn't pigeonhole you to say you've got to get one, because you really don't have a defensive tackle. You don't have a lot of help if you don't re-sign him. Even if you do, though, more guys up front. But I'm looking at somebody with a lot more size as well. I mean, like, I think Osa can get up the field. We'll see what Mozzie can do as well. Mozzie's kind of in between, but somebody that just plugs the holes there and can just eat up a lot of space. That's what I'm thinking that this team needs. Maybe you don't have to get that in the first round, but at some point, somebody with a lot of beef up there. That's what I'm looking for.
And it seems like that's kind of been in the past of an Aaron Whitecotton, who coached defensive line for the New York Jets. He had Big Quinn and Williams there in the middle of that defensive line. And when you look at what he's got now with the Cowboys, also Odighizuwa, not necessarily the tallest guy in stature, but you've got Mozzie Smith, who has a lot of power in the middle there. And there are plenty of options in the NFL draft, like Deion Walker from Kentucky, who's just a big guy in the middle. Alfred Collins from Texas, a guy that you could certainly get to fit that mold. But a lot of good insight from Brian Schottenheimer and his staff this week as to what they're looking for and what they want to do going into the future. It'll be a couple of months until we see that get played into action, but so far the early reviews on Brian Schottenheimer and his staff coming back positive, and they all seem to be in alignment. We'll come back here in a little bit from Indianapolis. Thanks for watching our coverage from the NFL Combine, and make sure to follow along at DallasCowboys.com.
Hey, Cowboys fans! So, we've got some exciting news to talk about today. Brian Schottenheimer is officially the new offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. And guess what? His first public appearance was at the NFL Combine, where he gave us some insight into what we can expect from him and his vision for the offense. This press conference wasn't just any typical media session, it's the first real glimpse we've had at Schottenheimer in action. So, what can we expect from the guy who's been around some of the best offenses in the league? Well, it's clear that there's a lot of hope surrounding him. This is a fresh start for the Cowboys offense, and he has a big role in shaping their future. If you're as excited about this new chapter as I am, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Cowboys news and updates. Now that we've met Schottenheimer, let's talk about the people he's bringing along for the ride. One of the most exciting things about his hire is the balance he's creating with his coaching staff. He's mixing up fresh ideas with solid experience, something that could really shake things up for the Cowboys. Schottenheimer has been vocal about his philosophy when it comes to building his team, and one thing he emphasized is the importance of having the right mix of young and veteran coaches. Take Matt Eberflus, for example. He's known for his defensive expertise, and while he's not joining Schottenheimer's offensive staff, it shows the caliber of people Schottenheimer surrounds himself with. Then there's Connor Riley, a rising star in the coaching world, who could be the key to developing the next generation of talent. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling hopeful about what Schottenheimer's bringing to the table. It's about time the Cowboys have a coaching staff that balances innovation with experience. What do you think? Are you excited about this mix of fresh and seasoned minds? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As we dive deeper into Schottenheimer's plans, we can't ignore the crucial personnel decisions that need to be made. Let's start with two key players, Zach Martin and Osa Odighizuwa. These guys are right at the heart of the Cowboys' future, and their next steps could make or break 2025. Zach Martin's situation is a big one, especially with rumors swirling around his potential retirement. If he steps away, it's a massive hole in the offensive line. But Schottenheimer has stressed the importance of strengthening the offensive line, and losing Martin could make that even more critical. What do you think? Should Martin call it a career, or does he still have a lot left to give? Drop your vote in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. And then there's Osa Odighizuwa. He's a player that could really take the defense to the next level if he gets the right support. Schottenheimer's approach to both the offensive line and defense seems clear. Reinforce the trenches. It's about dominating the line of scrimmage and ensuring the team has the right pieces to contend. So what's your take on these decisions? Are Martin and Odighizuwa the key to a successful 2025 season? Let's get the conversation going in the comments. Alright, let's talk about what we can expect from the Cowboys offense under Schottenheimer's leadership. If there's one thing that stands out, it's Schottenheimer's emphasis on balance. The guy wants to create a dynamic offense that can attack in multiple ways, and that includes the running game. Now, we all know the importance of a solid running back, right? Schottenheimer has already made it clear that he's looking for a running back who can catch passes out of the backfield and still provide the power to take over games on the ground. That's the kind of dual threat guy who can really elevate this offense. Looking at the current running back room, guys like Rico Dowdle have shown promise, but Schottenheimer might look to the draft to solidify the position. He wants a player who can help balance out the offense and take some pressure off Dak Prescott. With the right balance, the Cowboys' offense could become even more unpredictable, making them a nightmare for opposing defenses. But it's not just about the running back. The offensive line, led by guys like Tyler Smith, is key. Schottenheimer will rely on these guys to open up lanes for the run game and keep the passing game moving forward. Speaking of, do you think Schottenheimer's offensive scheme will bring a much-needed change to the Cowboys' rushing attack? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the defense. Schottenheimer might be the new guy calling the shots for the offense, but the defense is just as important if the Cowboys want to make noise in 2025, and it looks like defensive tackles are going to be a big focus moving forward. We've seen the potential in guys like Osa Odigizua and Mozzie Smith, but Schottenheimer knows that to be truly dominant, the Cowboys need to get even stronger up front. The goal here is simple: control the line of scrimmage. Whether it's stuffing the run or putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, strong defensive tackles are key. Looking ahead to the draft, the Cowboys have some exciting options. Players like De'Aaron Walker from Kentucky and Alfred Collins from Texas are already being talked about as potential fits. These are big, powerful guys who could help solidify the interior of the defensive line and provide the Cowboys with that much-needed push in the trenches. The impact of these draft picks could be huge. Imagine adding a guy who can eat up blockers and free up the linebackers to make plays. It could make all the difference in turning the defense into a true powerhouse. What do you think? Who would you like to see the Cowboys draft to beef up their defensive line? Vote in the pinned comment.